Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Food Marketing Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Resch, and joining me today is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Holden Rouse.
We're diving in deep into the world of food science, innovation, and culinary alchemy. Today, we have a special treat for you. Our guest speaker is Dr. Devin Golem, Vice President of Science and Innovation at Step Change Innovations. Step Change Innovations has been making waves in the food and beverage industry, pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. From plant-based proteins to personalized nutrition, they're at the forefront of food ingredient commercialization. And Dr. Golem, well, let's just say she's the guru behind the curtain, mixing science, creativity, and a dash of culinary flair. So grab your headphones, settle in, and get ready to explore the cutting edge of food innovation. We'll discuss breakthrough ingredients, functionality, and maybe even uncover the secret sauce for unicorn tears. Just kidding, but wouldn't that be something? Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Devin Golem to the Food Marketing Mindset Podcast. Let's stir the pot and cook up some knowledge together. Dr. Devin Golem, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us about your journey in the food and beverage industry and how you got started?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Doug and Holden. So when I was in undergrad, I was majoring in chemistry. And when it came time for internships, I had two options open to me. I could either go work at Perigo, which is um, a private label pharmaceutical company or a generic pharmaceutical company in Michigan, or go work at Kellogg's. And I decided, it takes 20 years to get a new drug on the market, but food, comes out in a year or two, and it has a little bit of creativity that comes with it as well. So I decided to take that internship, and I ended up working there for almost 2.5 years, actually, for my last couple of years of college, and decided I didn't know enough about food science from an academic standpoint, so I should probably go to grad school and learn a little bit more before I go get a real job. So I wound up at Purdue University and thought I'd get my master's, get in, get out. Someone asked that magic phrase, well, have you thought about getting your PhD? So I decided if I didn't push myself all the way then, I might never do it and I might regret it. So stayed for the PhD. After that, worked at different companies. I worked at Ganeden Biotech for a while doing sales. Worked at Roquette America with you, Doug, doing tech sales. I took some time off after Roquette to spend some time with my family and ended up writing for Prepared Foods after my son was born. And now I'm at Step Change.
That's awesome.
That's great background.
Yeah. So I want to know, with Step Change Innovation, what inspires the creation of that company and what's the problem that they're solving?
Sure. So Step Change is really the brainchild of my boss, Joe Bradley. He and I worked together at Ganeden back in the day. So Ganeden was really a pioneer in spore forming probiotics. Spore forming probiotics like the bacillus strains, usually they're a problem child in different facilities, and they're thought of as, more like sanitation issues and things like that. And they were never really thought of as actually probiotics and giving, beneficial effects to humans. So it was really an uphill battle to help educate people on why spore forming probiotics do have health benefits and why they're better than, some of the more commonly known lactic acid strains. And selling a branded science-backed ingredient is a completely different animal than, selling commodities or more well-known ingredients. And it was really, it took a lot of work to get commercialization around that ingredient and to get people to adopt it. And there were a lot of learnings along the way. And Ganeden had two successful exits, one on the supplement side of the business and one for food ingredients. They're now part of the Kerry Group since 2017. And there was just a lot to be learned during that time. So Joe wanted to help found a company that would help others learn from the mistakes that they made at Ganeden, and help people make more use of their intellectual property, of their clinical trials, help with that brand recognition and kind of being like the Intel Inside of ingredients. And using that model. And so everything that we do is really centered around those science-backed branded ingredients, but trying to find new ways to get them to market, whether it's new applications, different strategies with how to market that ingredient and tell the story. And we even do a little bit of inside sales and lead generation work as well.
So you talked about the commercialization of products and then innovation in subsegments as well. Could you talk about what's gaining traction right now in your view of things in terms of product offerings on the market and what you're working on in innovation and stuff like that that you're seeing?
Sure. So I think two of the big trends that I'm seeing right now in the industry are everything plant-based and sustainable. Of course, you need to, beware of greenwashing. Just because somebody says something is sustainable, it might not be true. But there's a lot of upcycled ingredients and making use of parts of produce that gets thrown away and extracting, actives from that actually have a health benefit. So that's one giant trend I'm seeing, and the other is precision fermentation. I'm seeing that a lot for proteins, like being able to make milk proteins without the cow and make egg protein without the chicken, which is really interesting. And also, precision fermentation is being used for botanicals as well. So there's a company out there that is actually trying to make use of precision fermentation to get actives from ingredients that otherwise, might be scarce or not as consistent. So those are the two big things I'm seeing popping up right now.
Nice. So a lot of technology is being involved in these trends. So I want to know, how do you see these technologies influencing more along the lines of product development with these ingredients?
Sure. So, when you are formulating products, you want to make sure you're using ingredients that, are that have a robust supply chain, and they're consistent. So I think with the precision fermentation, especially as it comes to some of the botanical actives, that will help promote more consistency. Whereas you may not have that if you're harvesting plants, from crop to crop or season to season. And the other big thing I see with technology and helping product development is AI. I think that there's ways that we can utilize AI to help cut down on the time it takes to work on a product and get it to market. It can help reduce iterations, um, and help navigate, what is the most plausible or, possible path to success, when you're formulating a product together. So there's actually on the nutraceutical side of things, there's a website called Path Forward Formulator. Um, it's actually my very distant cousin is the one that put it together. That's a story for another time, but
Episode number two.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we found out at IFT a couple years ago that we are like fifth cousins. We put our 23andMe stuff inside because you don't run into people with the name Durkee, which is my maiden name, quite often.
Sure.
But anyway, Shane put together the software where you can virtually build a supplement and, find out how, what size capsule you might need, or, what size tablet you might need, and get like theoreticals on costing and what the label would look like and everything. So that saves a lot of time for sure on the supplement side of things.
That's actually really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is impressive. I mean, that's
I didn't know something like that existed.
Yeah,
That's neat.
so I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if we see something like that coming up for food at some point as well. I mean,
Right.
supplements are a little bit more well defined because there's only so many applications that there are, and food is the Wild West in terms of applications. Anything you can think of that we eat, we can make. So.
for sure. Yeah, that's amazing. And so, when it comes to technology and commercialization, the nutritional aspect that you had said, what do you think contributes to consumers' health and well-being that we can do as an industry to help build that model even further from ingredients and innovation that you're saying?
I think a lot of it really boils down to functional foods. The consumers are, willing to take supplements to help with different things, and they're, willing to try different foods, but we can make it easier for the consumers if we can add ingredients that address health benefits into stuff that they're already eating. So they don't really have to, you know, overhaul their whole diet or, rhythm of eating or anything like that. So, if someone is having a protein shake in the morning, there's different actives that we could add to help with energy or help with metabolizing that protein. If someone, is having a mid-afternoon snack, maybe they're having a granola bar or some nuts, we could put in some energizing or focus ingredients to help them get through the rest of the day. So I really think it just boils down to functional foods and then understanding the ingredient and what applications it will survive in and where you can add it. and go from there.
Well, staying on functional foods, how do you identify a functional food that truly has health benefits versus one that's just there as a trend? And then what are your thoughts on like the potential impact of those that truly do have health benefits?
Sure. So, so functional foods can kind of take on different things a little bit. Like it could be, maybe a granola bar that just has an added fiber or something like that. Or it could be a granola bar that has a specific prebiotic in there to help with gut health and help with digestion. And I think a lot of it just really boils down to the science. With especially with functional and active ingredients, the gold standard is, randomized controlled trial, see if it has a health benefit and see if it positively impacts consumers. So, really understanding the science behind the ingredient is important. And that still is important for, things like fibers or sugar replacers or, stuff like that. The literature is full of science on different things. So understanding that I think is really key to delivering a health benefit. But of course, that marketing comes into play with that, as I'm sure you guys know. Like you have to be able to tell the story of that ingredient and you know, to put yourself forward as a reputable brand and gain consumer trust. So, being transparent, helping to educate consumers on those health benefits comes into play as well. So, there's a lot of things that are passing fads, but I think when food and ingredient companies really invest in the science behind that ingredient, I don't think they would do that unless they're pretty sure it's going to be something that sticks around for a while.
So you talked a little bit about a science-backed ingredients and the functionality of foods. Could you talk about your team and some of the commercialization successes that you had? Like what made it stand out? Do you have an example that you could share with us as well today?
So one thing I'm really excited about is Bellwether blends, which is something that we are launching very soon here in collaboration with a gummy company, and we're really looking at ingredients that have the science behind it to substantiate the claims, but also gummies is a very heat intensive process, and if they're pectin based, the pH is on the low end as well. So we need to make sure that those ingredients are viable throughout that process and then survive, of course, to the end of shelf life. So we've done a lot of heavy vetting with these ingredients and we've put together different blends that address different need states. And we do plan to market these blends into other applications as well. But we're really excited about the potential with these. We're looking at cognitive health and focus. We're looking at energy, sleep and relaxation, digestive and immune health. So I think gummies are a huge trend in nutraceuticals right now. So to be able to really put some ingredients that have amazing benefits in there is really exciting.
When you have all these great benefits, I want to know, how does the team at Step Change Innovations go after the companies looking for those benefits? How do you reach out to them? How do you find the right customer?
Whew, that's a that's a challenging question. We've been really fortunate at Step Change that just because of word of mouth, and we've all been in the industry a long time and have, impressive Rolodexes, I suppose. We've had a lot of companies come to us actually asking for innovation and asking, what are the biggest trends out there? What are the, biggest ingredients that are going to help give me an edge on my competition? We've had contract manufacturers ask us for help in this area. So I think, when we're going after customers, some of it might be us, but some of it is also the contract manufacturers wanting to win over new business and um, help give their customers a leg up on the competition. I think that it's very similar to things that we've seen in private label foods, especially after the housing crash in 2007, 2008, whenever that was. People were turning more to private label brands and store brands to save money. But then they found that those products were, still very on par with, national brands. But sometimes those companies would or the stores would start adding, extra benefits and extra ingredients to help keep that business. So when the economy turned, people didn't necessarily turn back to the national brands. So I think we're, seeing a lot of things like that within contract manufacturing right now.
So with all the ingredient combinations that you've seen and I guess the product development that you've seen across the industry, what would you say is your weirdest flavor combination you've ever encountered during the product development, and then also did it work?
So there's a couple different things I've seen that are very strange. Um, one that really speaks out to me is a raspberry rose drink that we worked on, and neither seems that weird. Although rose is definitely not a flavor my Midwestern palate necessarily appreciates, but my husband being from the Middle East, rose water is used a lot in cooking. So to put the two together was really interesting. I've had lavender lemonade and things like that, but to kind of have that floral note with the raspberry in a hydration beverage really wasn't necessarily something I was expecting, and it was really tasty.
Nice. I love the different flavors that other cultures bring to the table. And then especially that's always my favorite part of being a product developer is tasting what home may be to someone. And it gives you little insights to parts of the world that you may never get to see otherwise.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, and then kind of going off of that, I do want to know a little bit more about you. Could you share a little bit of a pivotal moment in your career that kind of helped shape how you approach R&D?
Sure. This is actually rather recent, but when earlier in the year, I started perimenopause, and I posted on LinkedIn about it. I thought either this is going to be great or people are going to think I'm crazy. And I actually got a lot of support and a lot of traction after that, realizing that, there's a lot of things that people don't speak up about that really shouldn't be as taboo or as forbidden as our society makes them out to be. So as I have been working on, different projects, it's become more personal, especially as we work on projects here that are focused on women's health. I'm not just, I'm looking for something that can help reach people that may not otherwise have products that are catered towards them. We're starting to see more menopausal and postmenopausal supplements and things like that come out, but perimenopause, or like that period of time leading up to when your periods actually stop, no one talks about it. I wrote an article that actually just got published yesterday in Natural Products Insider about ingredients in this area, and one of the statistics that I cited was that like 80% of women, uh, never, really learned about menopause or anything like that in school. I mean, we have childbirth classes, we don't have menopause classes. Um, so going through that and realizing that there's other women out there that are in the exact same boat as me has really made me just think about who am I trying to impact and what benefits am I trying to offer, and just really making that more personal. And even becoming a mom, I think, kind of had that same effect as well, because you're wanting to make products that are suitable for kids as well, that can be accessible to everyone. So, yeah, just kind of living my
And
life and being a woman has changed my thought process as I've gotten older.
that's awesome. And I do want our listeners to know we're recording on May 9th. So if you need to go back and check the archives out on that website to find the article, it was on what was the website?
Naturalproductsinsider.com.
Natural
It's
Products.
actually in their the digital issue on women's health that just got released yesterday. So it'll be in the digital
Nice.
magazine for all of eternity, I guess.
Awesome.
That's absurd.
Cool. Congrats.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so, with the focus on women's health that you've experienced recently, personally, and then also mental well being, longevity, right? How does step change innovations stay ahead of the curve when it comes to innovations in the food and beverage industry, besides potentially just personal experience? How do you see that working groups?
So a lot of it really is just staying up on industry news and going to all the trade shows. A lot of companies will launch do either a soft launch or a hard launch of new ingredients at trade shows, but they also, pimp them out in press releases and that get picked up by Nutri Ingredients or Food Navigator or other websites out there. So really just trying to stay up on that. But I also get journal alerts from some of the nutrition journals to see what other ingredients are being studied and what health benefits they may have. So that kind of clues me in on what might be coming down the road when it's more commercially viable.
Nice. So I want to know a little bit more also about step change innovations product development stages. And when you're really in that ideation stage, how do you balance the creativity and practicality when talking to a client?
Sure. I think a lot of that really boils down to understanding what are the non-negotiables on the project that you're working on. So, do I need a gummy that delivers 100% your daily value of vitamin C? Or do I need to make a no sugar added granola bar, but I can't use, any high intensity sweeteners, things like that. Figure out exactly what are the things that can't be done, and then, create to your heart's content around that. And I think flavors, and I'm sure you appreciate this, Holden, with your background, just flavors really allow for a lot of creativity. There's so many different nuances that go into flavors and so many different combinations, and then tapping into international flavors and all the different things that they bring. So I think that really helps lend a lot of creativity as well.
So with that creativity, at the end of the day, it's all about, can you get consumer buy-in,
Mhm.
right? And so how would you say the role of getting consumer feedback plays into shaping a final version of a product when you are ideating with your customers?
Sure. So consumers can help refine the taste or the texture or the organoleptic properties of a product, but it can also help with shaping the messaging and the marketing that goes around that product. So you might have something that tastes amazing, but if you market it with certain keywords, or go after a certain need state or benefit, maybe it won't be as successful. And then if you position it a different way, then maybe it really does resonate with consumers. So that's how I think consumers play in, really helping to, once you get a formulation more or less good, really dialing in that exact flavor profile that you need, and trying uh, to satiate as many different palates as possible, but then just making sure that the product is best positioned for the best success it can have.
Mhm. So you get the feedback, and you're coming back to your clients. You're working on maybe another round of revising the product. How do you collaborate with with those experts, and what qualities are you looking for in those cross-functional teams as you guys are trying to really, have a successful product launch?
Sure. It's step change, the best team. We just have a great team, and I think the best part of it is that we all come in from different parts of the industry. Like, some of us have been in sales and marketing, some of us have been in the product development, some of us have been in retail, and actually figuring out what's viable and what flows off the store shelves and what doesn't. So bringing that all together and being willing to help, learn from others, but also teach others and help build everyone up so that we can understand the different roles that each of us play and the different insights that we all have, and then put that together to really formulate the best product possible.
So I've been fortunate to be on your cross-functional team previously as well, right? So I know part of the process of that is looking through pivoting and adaptations, right? Some things don't work out well. Could you talk about how you've been successful in changing around market trends, or a specific pivot that needed to happen with an ingredient or flavor? And what is an example of the success that came from that?
Sure. I don't know that I have any particular personal examples of having to pivot too much, other than, clients just deciding they want a different flavor or something like that. Usually the application is pretty successful. But one huge pivot that I've seen in the industry lately is everything around Ozempic. So I can speak to that personally because I'm actually type 2 diabetic and on Ozempic, but we're starting to see food manufacturers think about marketing foods differently. In fact, I think Nestle launched some healthy bowls last year under the Lean Cuisine brand that were more geared towards diabetics, and we're starting, to see a lot of press about how the industry is thinking, and realizing that maybe they could make their products more marketable to people who are on Ozempic and GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs, as they're called. Um, so I think I think that's a big pivot right now. Whether it's retooling things that already exist to change messaging or helping, with the decreased appetite that a lot of these patients have, making sure that they're getting more well-rounded nutrition in their products. That's a change that we're starting to see.
Nice. So I want to go back a little bit. I know we talked a little bit about when you're working with new projects
Mhm.
and some of the flexibility and what could be a non-negotiable. I do want a little bit more clarity on what would be a non-negotiable for a project.
It really all depends on what the parameters are of the project itself. So, if you are making something that has to fit within a certain dietary constraint, if it needs to be gluten free, if it needs to be soy free, if it needs to be reduced sugar, really nailing down on those attributes. There's if all you're looking for is to deliver 5 grams of fiber in a serving and you don't care about anything else, then that's the only non-negotiable is the 5 grams of fiber. And how you get there, there's a million different ways that you can do that. So it's really just working with our clients to help understand what are the parameters that you want to fit into, and just being upfront with a lot of different questions, like, is there a certain calorie profile you want to hit? Is there a certain amount of protein you want in there? Do you want fortification with vitamins and minerals? Are there any, does it have to be organic? Does it have to be non-GMO? Does it have to be kosher or halal? Does it have to be vegan? Are there other ingredients that you don't want in there? And also keeping in mind constraints that might come from the contract manufacturer side. Like, some contract manufacturers may not want certain allergens in their plant. So if we're planning to use that particular manufacturer, then we need to make sure that the formulation adheres to those regulations or their guidelines as well.
So you talk about attributes, and we've talked a little bit about flavor combinations today. Could you talk about what's the most unique source of inspiration that's come to you throughout the food product development cycle, and how's that drawn into success from a food product as well?
This is going to sound incredibly ordinary, but it astounds me every time I do this, is just going into a grocery store. I mean, you would think, like, obviously you're going to get some inspiration there because you're going to see products that you haven't before, but just the plethora of different products and where they show up and where they're getting placed, and you know what what products are they next to. It never ceases to amaze me, and I try to go to as many different stores around the area as I can. So we have some local chains, we have a Whole Foods and Trader Joe's nearby, and I try to just go through all of it because you never know what you're going to find. Like, every time I go grocery shopping, it's also like a research expedition to find out what else is out there, and just, and as we become more worldly and we get more international products, and that's also a huge source of inspiration.
That's good. No, I like that, and I want to kind of touch more also back on something else we talked about too. You mentioned AI is an emerging technology, and you see it everywhere when you're on the news. AI is affecting this industry. It's affecting this industry. How is it going to affect our industry in food and beverage? Or is there another technology that we should be looking out for as well?
I mean, I do think that AI is going to help shorten product development time, and maybe even help with, issues outside of product development, like supply chain, or, um, making sure that an ingredient, fits different quality parameters. But I really think the precision fermentation is the big thing. There's a big push on ingredients that are sustainable, they're plant based. There's a lot of concerns around the globe with climate change, and we need to do something to be able to feed all these people on the planet still, because just using the land and using animals isn't, we're not going to be able to sustain that, and have our kids and grandkids have a good planet to live on. So precision fermentation, it will take less of a carbon footprint. You can use a vat as opposed to a field to grow things, and you can use it to make just about anything. So I think that, being able to make different animal proteins without the animal, not just lab grown meat, but like especially those milk and egg proteins I talked about earlier, that really adds a new dimension. And it also, regardless of what kind of ingredient you're making with precision fermentation, you can make that very consistent from batch to batch. And, so being able to really dial in, something specific with what you're making with the fermentation, it can cut down on resources, but also if you can make a product that is more consistent, it it really helps to decrease a lot of issues you may have with trying to deal with different batches, different seasons, or when harvesting ingredients. So I really think we're going to see that take off even more.
So you talk about the precision fermentation
Yes.
and other scientific advancements. With that is this drive for consumer attributes to be clean label, as an example, right? How do you really navigate the challenge of maintaining taste and texture to drive consumer adaptation into that space while minimizing additives and all the other components that go into that?
Sure. So we've made a lot of progress in the industry to make ingredients that are cleaner label, although, there's still, I think, some gray area on what actually constitutes clean label and what doesn't. Like I think of like xanthan gum and carrageenan and things like that is very clean label as opposed to a modified starch. But some people even think those aren't clean labels. So, trying to understand exactly what, clean label is supposed to be is one thing. But when I'm working on options, if I need to make something that's clean label, I really lean on my ingredient suppliers quite a bit. Like we know from working at Roquette and having that amazing applications team behind us, they really understand how different ingredients work in different applications and can help offer suggestions to make things work with more clean label ingredients. And then the other thing that I really depend on is flavor houses because one thing you talked about non-negotiable, one thing that's completely non-negotiable in my mind is taste. If you want something, if you want a healthy product, or something that delivers health benefits, if it tastes like shit, people are not going to eat it. So you really need to make something taste good to get repeat sales and to get consumer loyalty. But flavor companies are also, well versed in different applications, and some of them, may specialize in certain areas like dairy flavors or seasonings and snacks or, things like that. So lean on those flavor chemists and lean on their expertise because they can help you, make something that tastes great. And there's so many advances that have been made with natural flavors, although a lot of them use maltodextrin as a carrier. And whether maltodextrin is a clean label ingredient or not is debatable among other circles. But between your ingredient suppliers and your flavor suppliers, you can really go a long way.
I totally am in line with that. Flavor is a non-negotiable. I
Right?
love how you put that. That was good. And I, I think that we can wrap up with the food marketing mindsets. It's kind of becoming our trademark question to end the episode. What's the secret sauce that Step Change brings to the table in terms of the team's ability to drive sales through disruptive strategies?
Sure. I think it really boils down to all the different levels of expertise and the different areas of expertise that we have on our team, because we have a really well-rounded group that understands the regulatory aspects of an ingredient, understands the science and the functionality of an ingredient, understands what consumers want, understands what is viable in a retail setting, understands the sales and the marketing of ingredients. So being able to put all of that together and truly understand an ingredient from all angles, I think is really what makes us special.
Well, I'm so glad to have had you as a guest and getting the chance to come back face to face with each other. And hopefully our audience also enjoyed conversing with you or listening to you, I guess, in that regard. And so, Dr. Golem, I wanted to just say thank you to from both of us.
Yes,
Holden
thank
and
you
I.
so
So
much.
thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
that.
you for having me. It was great to talk with you both.
And that's a wrap on today's episode with Food Marketing Mindset. I'm Doug Resch,
And I'm Holden Rouse.
and a big thank you to the visionary food marketer who shared their secret sauce with us, Devin Golem.
Remember, the world of food marketing is everywhere. It's powerful and it's effective.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this podcast with fellow innovators. For more delicious content, follow us on our social channels and visit our website, Stay tuned for another serving of Food Marketing Mindset, where your appetite for growth meets the taste of triumph. Stay seasoned, stay inspired until we meet again on the next episode of Food Marketing Mindset.